Sit. Hi and welcome to my channel, Out the Doghouse Training. Today's session is all about teaching your dog to sit. So before we get into it, I just want to say, please do not ever push your dog's bottom down into the sit position when training. That is not what we want to be doing. We want to be giving the dog choice and we want to be educating them on what the trick is that we're asking them to perform so that they do that willingly. By pushing the bottom down, not only can it cause some pain and discomfort for the dog, but they may actually react negatively to that and they may act out in aggression. So please don't, under any circumstances, push on their bottom or force them in any way into a position. Instead, I'm going to be giving you some simple steps on how to perfect the sit. So there are two key methods for training a dog to sit. The first would be probably less common, and it is the capture method. And what we mean by that is we capture any time that the dog is doing the desired behaviour that we want to train. So for example, at any time in the day, if Chase just happened to be in his own accord in the sit position, I would go over, mark that as the desired behaviour, and give him a treat. And then over time, as he starts to piece together that when he's in the sit position, I'm saying the cue and capturing it and rewarding it, and he starts to piece together that the sit is that position. I think that is a slower method, takes more time, and I actually think it's less fun. I would much rather have an engaged training session, which is what brings me on to the second method, which is luring. It's always important whenever we're luring any positions that we always have a strategy on how we build out the lure. We never want to rely on luring a dog to do anything, but it's always a good starter to build up the value in that behaviour. So the lure method I will break down for you now. Firstly, just very quickly, I just want to talk through what is the perfect sit position. So let me ask Chase, break. So Chase is in a pretty nice sit now. So what we're looking for is square hips and equal weight on those back legs. So what we don't want is a lazy sit where a dog is shifting weight from one side of the hip or the other. So we want them square and equal weight, and that makes it really easy as well for them to transition in and out of the sit position. So for example, if we wanted to chain other positions with the sit, he can very easily go from a sit to a stand, to a down, to a sit, because the weight should be equal as he's pushing off those back legs into a stand or pushing down into a down position. So that's what we're looking for. And now I'm going to talk through some simple steps on how to get there. Okay, so with the lure method, to start with, we want some tasty treats and a clicker or a cue word, marker word that we can use to reward the behaviour that we're looking for. So I'm going to start by getting one of the pieces of treats in my right hand, and I'm going to have the clicker in my left, or just be ready with my marker word. So with the piece of food that I'm going to be using to lure, I'm going to move Chase around just so he's following that lure nicely and out of the sit position. And then I'm going to lift the lure slightly over his head and mark when he's in the sit and give him the reward. Okay, so Chase got slightly confused then, he thought we were doing another trick because he obviously knows sit already, but I'm just going to show you that again. So I'm going to move him around just so he's engaged with the treat, and then I'm going to lift it over his head, mark and deliver the treat. Okay, at this point we're not saying any cue words, we're just getting him into the right behaviour, marking it and rewarding. The next step from there, I would actually start to lift my hand away, so I'm not, the lure isn't quite so close to his nose, so it's a little bit further away. We're starting to wean him off the lure. So I'm going to, again, get him engaged, and then I'm going to lift my hand slightly up, and as he sits, I'm going to put it down. So we're still doing the same motion where we're lifting it above his head, but instead of directly above his nose, we're actually just bringing our hand slightly further away. So let's see that again. Again. So he's following the treat. And then I'm going to lift it up. Good boy. Okay. And once we're comfortable and we've done lots of repetitions and he's comfortable getting into that position with the law slightly above his head, then we're going to start to introduce the cue word. So we're still going to do the same law, but this is when we start to transition into the cue word. So he starts to bridge what that word means with that behaviour. So again, let's just move him out of the position, and then I'm going to say sit and mark and reward. So one more time, break. Sit. Okay, so that is the basic method for luring into the sit. So do lots of practice so they're really used to that. And then what you want to do is slowly phase out the law. So once they're very comfortable, the piece of food isn't directly above their nose, you're saying the command and they're already starting to get into that position. As you start to bring up the hand signal, then you're ready to start to phase out the hand signal altogether and not have the law. So to start with, I would just bring the food even further away and still use the cue, and we'll start to transition and phase that out. So again, break. So this time I'm going to keep my hand here and I'm going to say sit, and he's already in that position. So I'm going to break, sit. And once we've done lots of repetitions of this, break, sit. And he's nice and responsive and fast, and he's understanding that the cue word sit means to get in that position. Then we phase out the treat altogether and we reward after. He doesn't see the food until after he's delivered the reward. So break, sit, good. Break, sit. Sit, good. Okay. Now, from there, once you're really comfortable and your dog is sitting on command, on cue, then the ways to progress this trick would be two ways. One, through transitions to other tricks, and the second would be a sit-stay. So I would say at this point, once he's comfortable in the sit position, we want to build value for staying in that position, and he shouldn't break unless given the break word. So whenever training any tricks, you should always have a break word. Mine is simply break. And the dog should know that whatever position you put them in, they stay in that position until they get the break word. So this means we don't need to constantly be telling our dogs, stay, stay, walking away, stay. Instead, they know whatever command we put them in or whatever trick we're asking them to do, they continue to perform that trick until they're given the break cue. So it's much easier and cleaner communication. So make sure you have a break cue and start introducing that now. So break should mean you're free to do whatever you want to do. So break, sit. And then once we've put him in the sit, to start introducing the stay, I would take a step. See, he broke early there. So this is where it gets difficult. So sit. So I should be able to step away. And if he stays in that position, then I'll come back and reward. If that's too challenging and as soon as you step away, your dog starts to break position, then I wouldn't even take a step to begin with. I would simply just move a shoulder and then come back and reward if he stays in position. And we want to build up until we can break, sit, and mark for staying in that position and give the food. Break, sit, so it is tricky, this one, but it's definitely worth the investment. So put them in the position and slowly start to move around, break, and just don't ask too much too soon. Make sure that we're keeping the stay really short until they understand that that's what we're asking them to do. Sit. See, they shouldn't be shifting their body at all. So this is really tricky and it takes lots of practice. The next way to make this trick more challenging would be transitions. So for that, we mean moving in and out of different positions. So we can use the sit as another transition stand. So down, sit, stand, stand, sit. There we go. So what we start to do is chain together different behaviours, and the reward can be at any point of that. So it's not always after every behaviour, and that's really challenging. And again, we have to build up for the dog to stay engaged throughout that whole chain and then receive the reward at the end. So I'm going to try that again. Down, sit, down, sit. Good. So it may just be from a sit to a down to a sit again. And bearing in mind that that's asking a different behaviour of our dog. Not only are we asking them to go into the sit position from a stand, which is what we've been doing so far, but to move from a sit to push down and then from a down to push back up again, that's asking something completely different. So we need to understand that and make sure that we're very empathetic and give our dog some time to learn what we're asking. Obviously, they should already have a down and a stand if we're chaining those tricks together. Down, sit, stand. So Chase really struggles from a sit to a stand, so that's something that we're working on. Stand, stand. So I'm going to reward in the stand because that was tricky. Sit, down, sit. Good. And the clicker just helps me communicate throughout that I like what he's doing and he's doing what I'm asking, but he's not receiving the reward just yet. So the clicker's almost building that he knows he's doing what I'm asking, so the reward is coming. It's just not been delivered straight away. Break. Good boy. Good job. So there we have it. That is some easy steps on how to teach your dog to sit and then to progress from a sit to a sit stay and eventually to transition the sit into other positions. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and stay tuned for more Out the Doghouse training. Down, sit, stand, sit, down, stand, sit. Good boy. Break.